NC State and North Carolina. We move now to Friday. ACC rivalry action here. North Carolina, 6.5-point home favorites, 56 the total. I think you got to take the dog or pass here, honestly, because North Carolina's in one of these situations, and we saw it last week, and I didn't really think it over as much as I should have. They're laying 21 against Georgia Tech. Obviously, a horrendous loss for North Carolina, absolutely brutal. But then again, I started to think, it's like, how could they lose that game? But then I remembered, well, wait a minute, they pretty much clinched that division already. It's not like there's a whole lot at stake. I mean, they're pretty much locked into playing Clemson in the ACC championship game. It's pretty much a fait accompli right now because they're 6-1 in conference. Nobody can catch them. Pitt, Duke, and Georgia Tech are too far behind. You figured, with North Carolina, maybe not a whole lot to play for. They were going to maybe have a stumble at some point, but you still shouldn't lose that. I don't care what the situation is, what you've locked up, what you've clinched, and what you haven't clinched. You shouldn't lose to Georgia Tech, period. You should not. And that was a horrible loss last week for North Carolina in that football game. See if they can rebound here, have the response that we hope for in this matchup here against NC State. You would think they're a little bit more screwed in mentally with this being a rivalry situation here against NC State. On the flip side, NC State, look, that's 2 losses in a row, 21-20 to Boston College as favorites. They lose 25-10 to Louisville. This offense, ever since Devin Leary got injured, it hasn't been the same. Jack Chambers, pathetic. MJ Morris not available last week against Louisville, and they had to turn to Ben Finley at quarterback, and 16-35, 201 yards in that game. I mean, we haven't seen enough of him to really trust him. So, yeah, and in theory, I lean dog, and that's certainly the better defense, NC State. And even then, the NC State defense has shown some cracks in the armor the last few weeks, but they still are. You got to believe the better defense here over North Carolina. Is that enough? We'll see. Lean NC State, but man, I don't love their quarterback situation at all. But I'll tell you what, it's not like we loved Georgia Tech's offense last week, and they still moved the ball against North Carolina. So maybe whoever's at quarterback, Finley, Morris, Chambers, I mean, it's really up in the air who's going to start for Dave Doran here at quarterback, but maybe someone is capable of moving a ball against a North Carolina defense that, as we all know, has had their share of issues all season long. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, no shit. We talked about it with, I wanted Sims in. Obviously, he's just going to be out for the season. We talked on Saturday. But for Gibson to do that, you mean they had nothing to play? They walked through that game. They looked like, they didn't want to do it. They didn't give a fuck. It seemed like North Carolina in that
not mentally there, 100%.
Yeah, they were not.
I saw that. Yep.
Not mentally there at all. Yeah, NC State just seems like they're limping here to the finish line. The problem is, I'd love this to be a little bit over a touchdown. There's no way I can lay points. I talk about it every time. I think you look at NC State here or nothing. I think they still have the better defense, but in the end, I don't know. This one, it's dog or pass for me here with NC State. You just can't. Don't lay points. I mean, I think in the long run, I think you're going to be profit. I think everyone has been.
I think that's where
when they've been a dog, they've won. So